Night came early on Outpost 9. The sky above the colony was always dark, always silent, always heavy, like something watching from far away. Most humans stayed inside their metal homes after sunset. Strange sounds filled the empty roads, wind hitting broken pipes, old machines buzzing, and sometimes whispers that no one wanted to follow. But that night, Mark, a human engineer, walked alone toward the old scrapyard. He had a small flashlight and a toolbox in his hand. The power grid had failed again, and he needed to restart the backup system. He had done this route 100 times, but today felt different. The air was colder. The shadows looked deeper. And he had a strange feeling in his chest, like something was about to go wrong. Then he heard it. A sound so soft, so broken, that for a moment he thought it was the wind. But it came again, weak, shaking. A cry. Mark stopped walking. His breath froze. No one should be out here. The scrapyard was dangerous at night. Rusted ships, metal traps, wild scavenger beasts. No child or alien would survive long. He looked around, but the darkness swallowed everything. The cry came again, this time clearer. It sounded scared, and lonely. Mark slowly followed the sound. His flashlight shook in his hand as he stepped over sharp metal and old ship parts. The more he walked, the louder the cry became. Not loud in volume, but loud in pain. Like someone was trying not to cry. But failing, he moved behind a broken cargo container, and his heart almost stopped. 2 tiny alien girls were curled up in the corner. They looked no older than 6. Their skin was pale blue, almost glowing under the moonlight. Their eyes were huge, shining with fear. Their thin clothes were torn, and dust covered their small hands. One girl hugged the other tightly, whispering something in a scared voice. Mark froze where he stood. He had seen their species before. They lived on the far side of the colony, usually quiet and gentle. But he had never seen children alone like this, especially at night. He stepped forward slowly. The girls gasped and pushed themselves back, terrified. "Please." The older one whispered, her voice almost gone. "Please don't take us away. We didn't do anything, please." Mark raised his hands softly. "It's okay," he said in a gentle voice. "I won't hurt you." But before he could say more, he heard footsteps, hangry footsteps from the other side of the scrapyard. The girls instantly began to shake. Their eyes widened with fear. One grabbed the other's arm and whispered, "They're coming." "They found us." Mark's heartbeat quickened. "Who's coming?" he asked, but the girls just cried harder. The footsteps grew louder. Metal crunched. Someone whispered harshly. Someone else laughed a cold, cruel laugh. Mark suddenly understood. Someone was hunting them. He looked at the girls. They looked at him. Their small bodies shook like leaves in a storm. He whispered, "Stay behind me." The older girl hesitated, then moved behind him with her sister. Mark stood straight, gripping his small flashlight like a weapon. He wasn't a soldier, but he had something stronger, human heart that refused to let children suffer. The shadows moved, and 3 colony workers stepped out. Their clothes were dirty, their faces mean. One pointed at the girls. "There. The useless alien kids. Move aside, human, they don't belong here." Mark didn't move. The man came closer. "Did you hear me? They're trouble. Bad luck. Everyone knows their kind brings danger. Step away." Mark felt anger rise inside him. The girls hid behind him, clutching his jacket with trembling hands. Their small breaths pushed against his back. He said quietly, "Leave." The men looked at each other, surprised. One smirked, "You're going to protect them?" Another kicked a piece of metal toward the girls, making them cry again. "Move away, human." But Mark didn't step back. He stepped forward. The leader narrowed his eyes. "You really want to make this your problem?" Mark looked at the girls, helpless, abandoned, scared. No one else cared. No one else tried to help them. "Yes," he said. "This is my problem now." The air became still. The men glared at him, but Mark didn't blink. For a moment, it felt like the whole scrapyard was watching them. Then, slowly, the men stepped back. "This isn't over," one growled. They disappeared into the dark. When they were gone, the girls collapsed to the ground, crying softly. Mark knelt beside them. "You're safe," he whispered. "I'm here now." And in that moment, Mark knew his life had just changed forever. Mark stayed kneeling for a moment, letting the tiny alien girls breathe. Their small bodies trembled, and their hands clutched his jacket like it was the only safe thing left in the world. When the danger faded into the night, Mark gently stood up. "Can you walk?" he asked. The older girl nodded weakly. The younger one held her arm, hiding her face. Their steps were slow, shaky, but they followed him because they had no one else. Mark led them out of the scrapyard, shining the flashlight carefully so they wouldn't trip. The colony lights flickered far away. Everything around them felt cold and empty. But Mark's presence gave the girls a small sense of safety. After a few minutes, Mark spoke again, his voice soft. "What are your names?" The older girl whispered first. "Sarah," she pointed to her sister. "And she is Leary." Mark repeated their names gently, as if memorizing them. "I'm Mark. You're safe now." But Sarah's eyes still looked scared. "Those men, they said, we're bad luck. They said we should disappear." Mark stopped walking. He turned to face her. "You are not bad luck. They were wrong." Sarah lowered her head. She didn't believe him completely, but she wanted to. As they walked toward Mark's workshop, he noticed bruises on their arms, scratches on their legs, and dust covering their hair. These weren't just scared children. They were survivors of something painful. When they reached the edge of the colony road, Mark saw 3 people standing under a broken lamp, 2 men and a woman. They looked angry, arms crossed, eyes sharp. The same group he saw earlier must have warned others. One of them pointed at the girls. "There they are. The aliens Mark is protecting." The woman shook her head. "You can't bring them here, Mark. The council already said no alien strays inside the colony zone." "They're children," Mark said, controlling his voice. "They're trouble," the man replied. "We don't want their kind near our homes." Sarah and Leary hid behind Mark again, their bodies pressed against his back. Their fear was loud, even though they didn't speak. Mark breathed slowly. "If you don't want to help them, fine. But you won't stop me." The woman stepped closer. "Mark, listen. Their species is cursed. Everyone who helps them gets hurt. Their mother died and now the entire colony will suffer if you keep them." Mark's jaw tightened. "They're not cursed. They're abandoned." The man scoffed. "Same thing." Mark stepped forward, blocking the girls completely with his body. His voice turned firm like steel. "No, it's not." The people hesitated. Mark wasn't a soldier or a fighter, but his eyes showed something they understood. He wouldn't move. A tense silence filled the air. Finally, they backed away, whispering angry words, but leaving the path open as Mark led the girls forward again. Sarah looked up at him. "Why did you protect us?" Again. Mark looked ahead at the dark road. "Because someone should." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she smiled a little, the first smile he had seen from her. When they reached Mark's workshop, he opened the door slowly. It was small, warm, and filled with tools, wires, and old machines. To Mark, it was messy. To the girls, it felt like heaven. Sarah walked in carefully, touching nothing, just staring at the glowing screens and shelves. Leary, however, walked straight to a metal chair and curled up. Exhausted. Mark found a clean blanket and wrapped it around her. She instantly held it tight, like she had never felt warmth before. He turned to Sarah. "You're safe here. No one will harm you." She looked at him with big eyes. "Why are humans kind? Others said humans only help their own." Mark smiled gently. "Humans help who needs help. That's who we are." Sarah didn't say anything, but her eyes softened. Mark made a small bowl of warm soup. When he placed it in front of the girls, they froze. They had food. Real food. Not stolen scraps. Not leftovers thrown on the ground. Sarah touched the bowl slowly. "It's for us." "Yes," Mark said. "For both of you." Leary sniffed it, then took the first small sip. Her eyes widened. She drank again faster this time. Sarah followed her, tears falling silently as she ate. No one had fed them like this since their mother died. Mark watched them quietly. His heart felt heavy, but also certainly had done the right thing. After finishing, the girls leaned against each other, finally relaxing. Mark sat near the door, keeping watch. He didn't want those men returning. He didn't want the girls waking up scared. He whispered to himself, whatever comes next, I'll protect them, and somewhere deep inside him, he knew this was just the beginning. The night felt warmer inside Mark's workshop, but Sarah and Leary still sat close to each other. Their small bodies pressed together, like they feared someone might snatch them away at any moment. Mark watched them quietly as he checked the locks on the doors, then the windows, then the emergency latch. He double-checked everything, not because he was afraid for himself, but because he was afraid for them. When he finally sat down, the room was silent. Only the soft humming of old machines filled the space. Sarah looked around the workshop with curious yet cautious eyes. Every tool, every light, every dusty shelf seemed new to her. Leary, still wrapped in the blanket, peeked at Mark from behind her sister's shoulder like a small kitten learning to trust. Mark smiled gently. You two can sleep here tonight. It's safe. Sarah lowered her head. We never had a safe place before. Mark felt something twist in his chest. How long had they suffered? How long had they been running? He knelt beside them and spoke softly. You're safe now. I promise. Leary tugged his sleeve carefully. Are you going to leave tonight? Mark shook his head. No, I'm staying right here. She gave a tiny sigh of relief and curled back under the blanket. Mark began cleaning a corner of his workshop, moving boxes and tools aside. You two need a place to sleep, he said. Sarah watched him with wide eyes. You're making a bed? Mark nodded. Yeah, not a perfect one, but better than cold metal. He laid 2 old blankets on the floor, placed soft cloth over them, then added a small pillow he used for resting during long repairs. The bed looked simple, but, to the girls, it looked like luxury. Sarah touched it gently. No one ever made something like this for us. Then they should have, Mark replied without thinking. Later, he prepared some warm water so they could clean their hands and faces. Leary squeaked when she felt the warm cloth on her cheek. It's warm, she whispered, surprised. Mark chuckled. That's how it's supposed to be. The girls cleaned themselves, slowly, carefully. Every small comfort felt new. Every gentle action from Mark made them look at him like he was something impossible, someone who cared. When they finished, Sarah suddenly stepped back, her eyes going wide as if she remembered something painful. Mark, she whispered, why are you doing all this? He looked at her. Because you need help, but why you? She asked, voice shaking. Humans passed us today. They saw us. They heard us cry. No one stopped. Only you. Mark went silent for a moment. Then he walked to his workbench and picked up a small broken drone. When I was your age, he said, someone helped me too. I was lost, alone, and scared. One stranger stopped. He didn't know me, but he helped me anyway. Sarah listened closely. That day, Mark continued, I decided, if I ever saw someone in trouble like I was, I'd help them too. He smiled gently. So here we are. Sarah blinked fast, trying not to cry. No human had ever spoken to her like that. As midnight came, the girls finally lay down on their new small bed. Leary fell asleep first, holding Sarah's hand. But Sarah stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Mark noticed. Can't sleep? She hesitated. If I sleep, will you still be here when I wake up? Yes, Mark said. I'm not going anywhere. Sarah finally closed her eyes. Mark sat beside the door again, toolbox next to him like a shield. He didn't trust the colony people after what he saw. They might return. And if they did, he wanted to be ready. Hours passed. At some point, Sarah woke up from a nightmare. She gasped and sat up suddenly, breathing hard. Mark was instantly beside her. Hey, it's okay, he said softly. You're safe. Sarah looked around and realized she was in the workshop. not the cold alleys, not the scrapyard. She relaxed slowly. Will you protect us tomorrow too? She whispered, double quotes, yes, Mark said. And the day after. And the day after that, she smiled, small, shaky, but real. Then she lay down again, finally trusting sleep, by sunrise. Mark was still awake, still guarding, still thinking. He didn't know why the colony hated these children so much. He didn't know why their mother died. He didn't know what danger followed them, but he knew one thing: they needed him. And he was not going to fail them, not now, not ever. The next morning. The first rays of pale sunlight slipped through the small workshop window. Mark stretched his stiff back. He had sat awake the whole night, guarding the door like a silent soldier. Sarah and Leary were still asleep, curled together under the blanket Mark had made. They looked peaceful now, but Mark remembered their shaking bodies, their cries, and the fear in their eyes. That fear wasn't normal. Something bigger was behind it. Mark stepped outside quietly so he wouldn't wake them. The colony was slowly coming to life, doors opening, engines rumbling, people walking to early shifts. But as soon as the workers saw Mark, they whispered to one another. Some glared. Some pointed. Some shook their heads with disgust. Word had spread faster than he expected. Everyone knew he had taken the alien girls in, and everyone had an opinion. Mark ignored them and walked toward the supply station to grab more food. But before he reached the door, 2 security officers blocked his way. One held a tablet. The other held a suspicious look. Mark Dalton. The officer with the tablet asked, "That's me. You are in violation of colony protocol," the officer said. Mark frowned. For feeding children. The second officer answered sharply, for bringing unauthorized aliens into residential zones. Mark crossed his arms. They're children, not weapons. Rules are rules, the officer replied coldly. You must surrender them to the council before noon. Mark's stomach tightened. Surrender them, for what? For examination, the first officer said. They might be carrying harmful pathogens. They might attract hostile species. Their presence is a security risk. Mark shook his head slowly. They're afraid, not dangerous. The officer's voice hardened. You have until noon. If you refuse, we will come for them ourselves. Mark said nothing. He watched them walk away, leaving a storm behind. When Mark returned to the workshop, Sarah and Leary were awake, sitting on the small bed. Leary was holding the blanket tightly. Sarah watched Mark's face carefully. Are they coming? She asked softly. Mark froze. How did you know? Sarah looked down. They always come. First with words, then with cages. Mark knelt in front of her. They're not taking you. I will not let them. Sarah bit her lip. But you're only one human. Mark smiled slightly. Then I'll be one strong human. Leary crawled closer and held his sleeve. Please don't let them take us back. They hurt us there. Mark felt anger burn inside him. Tell me what they did. Sarah shook her head fast. If we tell, they will come faster. Mark didn't push her. He knew trauma when he saw it. As the morning passed, more people gathered outside the workshop. Some just watched. Some argued. Some demanded Mark open the door. They're cursed. They'll bring danger. They killed the power grid with their weird energy. They should be removed. Mark stood at the doorway, blocking everyone. No one comes inside. Move, Mark, a large man shouted. This isn't your fight. It is now, Mark replied firmly. The man sneered. Why? Why save them? They're not even your species. Mark looked back at the terrified girls behind him. Because the galaxy is already full of people who walk away, he said. I won't be one of them. The crowd fell silent for a moment, surprised by his boldness. But silence didn't last. A stone flew. It landed near the girls, making them scream. Mark stepped forward furiously. That's ENOUGH. His voice echoed through the metal walls. The crowd stepped back, shocked. They had never seen calm, quiet Mark snap like this. Later, the colony council sent a message demanding a meeting. Mark refused. He already knew their answer. They would take the girls, lock them in a lab, run tests, and treat them like objects, not children. He wasn't going to allow it. He needed a plan. Mark grabbed tools, wires and spare power cells. He sealed the windows with reinforced plates. He locked the doors from the inside. He even rewired his workshop alarm system to detect anyone trying to break in. The girls watched silently. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. "Making sure no one gets inside," Mark said. Leary whispered, "People don't like us." Mark looked at them with gentle but determined eyes. "People don't have to like you." That small line made both girls stop talking. Their eyes filled with a strange emotion, hope and disbelief mixed together. As noon approached, distant footsteps echoed across the metal walkway. Not angry crowd footsteps. Marching footsteps. Soldiers. Mark stood in front of the girls. "Stay behind me. Do not move." Sarah grabbed Leary tightly. "What will they do?" Mark's voice was calm, but his heart pounded. "Whatever happens, I won't let them take you." The door shook as someone tried to open it from outside. Then a loud voice called out, "Mark Dalton, open the door. This is your final warning." Mark clenched his fists. The danger was no longer a whisper, it was here, and he was ready to fight for the helpless alien girls. No matter what came next. The banging on the workshop door grew louder, heavier metal against metal, shaking the entire frame. Mark stood firmly in front of Sarah and Leary, blocking them from sight. His breath was steady, but his heartbeat thumped like a hammer in his chest. "Mark Dalton," a soldier shouted. "This is your last chance. Open the door, or we will force an entry." Sarah and Leary held each other tightly. Their small fingers pressed into each other's hands as if letting go would mean losing everything. Leary's eyes filled with tears. Sarah's lips trembled. Mark whispered, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." But deep inside, he knew the truth. This wasn't a fight he could win with strength. He was one human against armed soldiers. Yet he refused to give up. Not now. Not after seeing what these girls had gone through. The door shuttered again. Mark slowly turned to the girls. "Sarah, I need to know something," he said softly. "What really happened to your mother?" Sarah froze. Her eyes darted to the door. Then back to Mark. Then to the glowing patterns under her skin, patterns she had tried to hide since last night. Mark noticed her panic. "You can trust me," he whispered. "Please," Sarah breathed shakily. She didn't die because of sickness." Mark leaned closer. "Then how?" Sarah lifted her small hand. The blue skin glowed faintly, like soft light trapped underwater. "She died because of this." Mark's eyes widened. The glowing patterns pulsed again, brighter, clearer, forming thin lines up her arms. Leary's skin glowed too, weaker, but still visible. Mark's mind raced. "What is that energy?" Sarah nodded slowly. "It's inside our whole species. A gift. But humans, aliens, everyone is scared of it." The banging grew louder. Mark whispered quickly, "What does your energy do?" Sarah swallowed hard. "It reacts to danger. It reacts to fear. It grows stronger when we're scared." Leary whispered, "Too strong." Sarah continued, voice trembling. "People think we are cursed. But we're not cursed. We are born with ancient energy. Our mother had it too. When soldiers tried to take us one night, she used her energy to protect us. And," her voice cracked, "and it killed her." Mark froze. The girls weren't dangerous by choice. They were dangerous because they were terrified children with power they couldn't control. "That's why everyone hates us," Sarah added. "They think we will explode. They think we will destroy everything." Leary cried, softly. "But we only want to live." Mark felt something heavy press against his heart. These girls had been hunted not because they were weak, but because they were powerful. Not because they were a burden, but because they were valuable. Someone outside shouted, "Break the door." Metal tools slammed into the hinges. Mark stepped in front of the girls again. "Look at me," he said firmly. Sarah and Leary lifted their tear-filled eyes. "You didn't kill your mother," Mark said. "Fear killed her. Fear of people who didn't understand. But I'm not afraid of you." Sarah shook her head. You should be. Our power can hurt you too. Mark knelt down and held her trembling hands. I trust you. And trust is stronger than fear. For the first time, Sarah didn't pull away. A loud crack rang out the doors, top hinge snapped. Mark stood up fast. They're coming in, he said. But before they do, I need you to listen. The girls leaned forward, scared but attentive. Your power reacts to fear, Mark said. But right now, you are with me. You are safe. I won't let anyone hurt you, Sarah whispered. Mark, we don't want to hurt the soldiers either. I know, he said. So stay close to me. Stay calm. Stay together. The lower hinge cracked. Dust fell from the ceiling. Mark positioned the girls directly behind him and grabbed a metal rod from his workbench. He didn't plan to fight the soldiers, not unless he had no choice, but he needed to look ready. Another crack. Another slam. Then a harsh order. 3, 2, 1 breach. The door burst open, crashing inward. 7 soldiers stormed inside with rifles raised. Their leader pointed at the girls. Grab the alien children. Mark stepped in front of them like a wall. You'll take them over my dead body. The soldiers froze for a split second. No one expected a simple, engineer-quiet.com. Ordinary Mark II stand like a soldier guarding royalty. The leader growled. Move aside, human, this is your final warning. No, Mark said. My final decision. At that moment, Sarah felt her fear rising. Her hands glowed brighter. Leary's skin pulsed with energy. The ground vibrated softly. The air buzzed. The soldiers noticed. Energy spike detected. Contain them. No, Mark shouted. Don't touch them. But it was too late. One soldier grabbed Sarah's arm. Her eyes widened. The glowing patterns erupted. A wave of force exploded outward, silent but powerful, throwing the soldier back against the wall. Leary screamed. Sarah panicked. The energy spiraled out of control. Mark turned instantly, wrapped his arms around them both, and whispered, It's okay. I'm here. I'm here. It's okay. Slowly, slowly, the energy dimmed. Only the sound of heavy breathing filled the room. The soldiers stared in. Shocked. The girls clung to Mark like he was the only safe thing left in the universe, and that moment changed everything. These girls were not cursed. They were powerful. And Mark was the only human brave enough to protect them. Silence filled the workshop after the explosion of energy. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. The soldiers, stunned and confused, stared at Sarah and Leary with wide, frightened eyes. None of them had expected such force from 2 small children. Mark kept his arms wrapped around the girls. Their trembling bodies pressed against his chest. He felt their hearts racing like frightened birds. He didn't let go. The soldier who had been thrown against the wall slowly stood up, dazed and furious. What are they? He shouted. These things are dangerous. They are children. Mark shouted back, voice shaking with anger. The leader pointed his rifle at Mark. Move away, human, now. Mark stood up, shielding the girls like a shield. If you fire, your bullet hits me first. The leader hesitated. Even soldiers didn't want to kill an innocent human in front of witnesses. But their mission was clear. They wanted the girls. One of the soldiers whispered, Sir, protocol says high-energy aliens must be contained immediately. Another added, if they lose control again, we all die. Sarah heard them. Her fingers dug into Mark's jacket. Mark, please don't let them take us. I won't, he whispered. But he also knew the girls couldn't handle another burst of fear. If they panicked again, the energy might explode harder. Maybe hurting them too. He needed to think fast. The leader finally made his move. Teams A and B grabbed the children. Team C restrained the human. 3 soldiers rushed forward, trying to push Mark aside. But Mark fought with everything inside him. He wasn't strong. He wasn't trained. But desperation gave him strength. He slammed one soldier back with his shoulder, blocked another with his arm, and kicked the third away. The girls gasped. Mark, Sarah cried. You'll get hurt. Leary sobbed. Mark gritted his teeth. I don't care. But soldiers kept coming. One grabbed Mark from behind. Another aimed a stun baton at him. Another reached toward the girls. Sarah screamed, her glow spreading fast. Mark yelled, "No, Sarah, don't." But fear was faster than his words. A sudden wave of blue light burst out, stronger than before. The ground shook. Tools fell. A table flipped over. All three soldiers were thrown backward like dolls. Mark stumbled, but held his ground. Shielding the girls from the shockwave, the soldiers lay on the floor. Groaning in pain, the leader raised his voice, now filled with fear instead of authority. "They're unstable. We need backup. Call heavy units now." Mark's heart dropped. Heavy units meant armored soldiers, powerful weapons, containment drones, and sometimes lethal force. He had no more time. He grabbed Sarah and Leary's hands. "We're leaving. Now, but where?" Sarah asked. "Anywhere that's not here." Mark pushed open the workshop's emergency hatch and led them into the old tunnels below the colony. Dark, damp passages no one used anymore. Behind them, the soldiers shouted, "They're escaping. Follow them." Mark ran through the tunnels, pulling the girls along. Their footsteps echoed in the narrow passage. Pipes rattled above them. Water dripped from cracks. Every shadow felt alive. Leary struggled to keep up. "I'm scared." Mark lifted her into his arms. "I know, I'm here. Hold on tight." Sarah held his hand desperately. "Are they going to kill us?" Mark breathed hard. "No, they won't touch you. Not while I breathe." But he wasn't sure how long he could keep his promise. Behind them, flashlights flickered. Soldiers were entering the tunnel. "Move." They went this way. Mark picked up speed, turning corners blindly. He only had one map in his mind, the old maintenance routes he used years ago. If he could reach the drainage vents near the canyon edge, they might escape into the open wasteland. Not safe, but safer than the colony. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the tunnels. "Beep, beep, beep, all personnel, be advised. High energy. Alien subjects and one human accomplice have escaped. Heavy containment units deployed." Leary whimpered. "They're calling us." "Subjects." Sarah squeezed Mark's hand. "We're not. Subjects." Mark felt rage burn inside him. "You are children, and they will never change that." As they ran, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber filled with old machinery. Broken wires hung from the ceiling, metal crates lay scattered. Mark stopped for a moment, catching his breath. Sarah looked up at him, breathing fast. "Mark, we can't keep running forever." He knelt down, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Maybe not. But we can run today. And tomorrow, we'll find a place where no one can hurt you," Leary whispered. "Do humans always protect others like this?" Mark smiled, breathless but sincere. "Good humans do." Suddenly, the sound of metal boots echoed again, closer than before. "They're here!" Sarah cried. Mark stood, adrenaline rushing through him. "Then we move again." He grabbed a metal pipe from the ground, a weapon if he needed it, then lifted Leary and took Sarah's hand. "Stay close. Don't let go." They ran deeper into the chamber as the soldiers stormed in behind them. And Mark realized something. He wasn't running away from danger. He was running toward his purpose, to protect the helpless alien girls. No matter what price he had to pay, Mark ran through the old chamber, with Sarah and Leary at his side. Every breath sharp, every heartbeat loud. The metal boots of soldiers echoed behind them, growing closer, heavier, more threatening with every second. The old tunnels shook under the weight of marching units. Heavy containment drones buzzed somewhere deeper in the darkness. Scanning for energy signatures, Sarah's hand tightened around Mark's. "Mark? We can't run," she whispered, double quotes. "Yes, you can," Mark said, pulling her along. "And I'm not letting go." A loud blast struck the wall behind them, soldiers firing stun cannons to slow them down. Sparks flew everywhere. Leary screamed and buried her face against Mark's chest. He shielded her with his arm and kept running. They reached the end of the chamber where an old maintenance ladder led up to a metal hatch. Mark climbed fast, lifting Leary first, then helping Sarah up. He shoved the hatch open and sunlight blasted into the dark. Tunnel-like hope breaking through fear. The outside world. A wasteland of red dust, broken rocks, and endless sky. Not pretty, but free, for the girls. It felt like heaven. Mark jumped out behind them just as the hatch burst open below. Soldiers began climbing up. No time, Mark said. Run toward the ridge. They sprinted across the rocky ground. The wind was harsh, but it felt fresh compared to the tunnels. The sun warmed their cold skin. Leary held Mark's neck tightly while Sarah ran beside him, trying to match his steps. But soldiers climbed out of the hatch behind them, dozens of them. Mark looked ahead, and saw something that made his heart sink. A cliff. A deep drop into a canyon. No bridges. No doors. No roads. No escape. Sarah stopped running. Mark, there's nowhere else to go. Mark turned around slowly. Soldiers were closing in. Their rifles buzzed with containment energy. Drones scanned the girls. Their glowing screens reading, HIGHHNOG, target detected contain IME mediator. Y. Mark placed Leary gently on the ground and stepped in front of the girls again. He raised his pipe like it was a sword. He stood tall, even though his legs trembled. The colony commander stepped forward. This is your last warning, Mark Dalton. Move aside. No, Mark said. His voice didn't shake. My answer hasn't changed. You're protecting unstable creatures. I'm protecting children. They are dangerous, so am I. When someone threatens them, the commander clenched his jaw. Very well. Soldiers, a loud boom cut him off. Everyone looked up. Across the sky. A massive shadow descended, dark, metallic, powerful. Engines roared like thunder. Dust lifted off the ground. A ship. A human fleet patrol cruiser. It lowered rapidly, kicking up sand and wind until soldiers had to shield their faces. The noise was deafening. When the engines cooled, a landing ramp opened, and armored human fleet officers marched out. The commander of the fleet, all.com, with a voice like steel, stepped forward. He looked at Mark first. Are you the one protecting those children? Mark nodded, exhausted but still standing. The fleet commander turned slowly toward the colony soldiers. Lower your weapons. This is a colony matter, the colony commander argued. Those aliens are too dangerous. They are children under human protection now, the fleet commander interrupted. We received emergency signals of abuse and forced containment. We don't tolerate that. The colony soldiers looked confused, angry, scared. Mark felt Sarah grip his hand. Mark, who are they? She whispered. Humans, Mark said softly. Humans who fight for what's right. The fleet commander kneeled in front of the girls. His voice softened. You two are safe now. No one will take you. Not today, not ever. Leary's eyes filled with tears. You believe us? Yes, he said, and we will protect you. The colony soldiers were ordered to stand down. Their weapons powered off. Drones deactivated. Sarah and Leary walked slowly toward the fleet commander. Then turned back to Mark, fear still pulling them backward. Mark knelt and smiled. Go ahead. They're here to help. Will you come to? Sarah whispered. Mark's heart softened. If you want me to. Sarah grabbed his hand instantly. We want you, Leary said, her small voice trembling. Mark nodded. Then, I'm not going anywhere. The fleet commander stepped aside, allowing them to board the cruiser together. Inside the ship, it was warm, bright, safe. Humans treated the girls kindly, offering food, blankets, gentle smiles. Sarah and Leary stuck to Mark like shadows, afraid he might disappear. One officer whispered to Mark, you protected them alone. Respect. Not many would stand against a whole colony. Mark looked at the girls. I couldn't walk away. Sarah leaned her head on his arm. Mark, are we your family now? Mark placed a hand on her hair and smiled softly. You already were. Leary hugged him tightly. And you're ours. As the ship rose into the sky, leaving the colony behind, Sarah looked out the window at the clouds glowing in sunlight. For the first time in their lives, the alien girls felt hope. And for the first time, Mark understood something powerful. Family isn't blood. Family is who you fight for. And humans, real humans, never abandon the ones who need them.